stopping the Liga brothers in the middle of their dig in Sans Marche. Their spade finally struck a man-made hatch that had been sealed since early inhabitants first noted the island's peculiar traits in the 1700s after 10 years of tireless pursuit. Thus, we are examining a structure that is currently just partially visible. We're searching for anything unusual in the neighborhood. We're witnessing something that doesn't belong here. The longest persistent treasure hunt in history, which began in 1795 with stories of pirate hordes, and was stoked by generations of unsuccessful voyages, reached its culmination as caught by the History Channel. This hatch, which is concealed behind earthen strata, suggests a past that predates both Captain Kidd and Blackbird. Beyond that, what we know might be rewritten by connections to ancient civilizations or perhaps medieval Europe, where X indicates the location after being discovered for the first time in 1795, when 3 teens discovered a mysterious pit. Oak Island's mysteries have endured more than 2 centuries of tenacious investigation. It's insane when you consider it. The island's notorious booby-trap flood tunnels defeated the first organized attempt, the Inslow Company in 1803, which dug 90 feet deep. We have timber, I see. It appears to be a new shaft. It alters the entire narrative. We might be staring at a money pit. 6 tragic deaths have since been caused by collapses and accidents, solidifying the island's terrible curse. However, that secret dam has broken today. Equipped with contemporary technology, the Liga brothers are solving a mystery based on stories of 14th century Templar exiles. Furthermore, the treasure is no longer a legend. This is a signal for you. Do you have a signal? Not terrible, either. Good indication, indeed. Only in the swamp, everything began to fall apart, believed to be a natural feature for a long time. However, Jeremy's 2020 conductivity survey made significant progress in identifying a massive metallic anomaly at its northernmost point. Take this. The site matched descriptions of the Jack Adams box from the 19th century exactly. A purported trove of valuable artifacts. This wasn't only arbitrary trash. It matched oral traditions of a hidden fund that may have been connected to privateers in the 17th century or even earlier European tourists. This was the first concrete scientific evidence supporting the veracity of the ancient tales. At the same time, a sonar survey down borehole L15 at the fabled Money Pit, which was first excavated in 1804, showed a huge emptiness 150 feet below the surface. Its straight, distinct walls resembled the descriptions of an offset chamber, a secondary vault intended to deceive and obstruct searchers from the 19th century. The technical know-how needed to construct such a structure possibly hundreds of years ago. It's a hint. It's data. It serves as justification for perseverance, vigilance, and optimism. Implies a degree of complexity comparable to that of historic hydraulic systems or cathedrals from medieval Europe. Then, on Lot 10, ground-penetrating radar confirmed the outlandish notion of 1970s researcher Fred Nolan. Originally to distinct islands, Oak Island was connected by a huge man-made dam. The swamp was transformed into a purposefully enormous hiding spot by this enormous construction, which geologists estimate may have been constructed as early as the 13th century. The secret passage, the mailbox, and the swamp created a perfect storm of proof. This was not the loot of pirates. This undertaking was epic in scope, suggesting a historical occurrence similar to the 1307 Templar purge. Could it perhaps have something to do with the alleged dam that was indicated on the map from the 14th century that Zena Halbrand said was made by Knights Templar? As the tangible proof was becoming indisputable, a historical bombshell was released. Two maps that were shown by researcher Zena Halbrand completely altered the situation. The first, dated 1179, predates Columbus by about 300 years and suggests medieval knowledge of the New World, presumably by Templar voyagers. The second was a 1347 French map with mysterious symbols like entrée, entrance, and anchor written on it. After escaping persecution, this appeared to be a comprehensive plan for a temple operation to protect their holy artifacts. When these medieval maps were superimposed on contemporary satellite imagery, a lone bright point that seemed to be an entrance appeared close to Dave Blankenship's home. Their target was provided by the fusion of cutting-edge technology and medieval cryptography. They needed to dig. The time had arrived to alter history by breaking through the vault. At the bright spot shown on the chart from 1347, it in French, that obviously alludes to the marsh on the island's Nolan side. Something known as the marsh, or the actual swamp, is also delimited. There was a loud clank as the team's shovels struck metal. This wasn't just any hit. They were precisely where the old map from centuries before indicated they should be. They carefully discovered a rusted old hatch, a location that matched hazy historical descriptions of secret entrances from 19th century excavators. The reality set in as they peered at it. Since the 14th century, when the Knights Templar disappeared from the annals of history, this hatch could have been locked. It offered solutions to a riddle that has perplexed humanity since 1795. A blast of chilly, humid air that had been confined for more than 600 years was released when the rusty hatch rose, with a moaning screech of metal requiring their combined might. A flight of stone steps led down into complete darkness beneath them. The eroded edges and moss-covered surfaces suggested centuries of neglect. The darkness was broken by flashlights as they made their way down a little hallway. Unfamiliar symbols, an odd combination of Templar crosses, alchemical markings, and geometric designs that were unrelated to any known culture were inscribed on the stone walls. They now beheld a large room with a high-arched ceiling that seemed to absorb the light, and sound was revealed by the corridor. A stone table with numerous finely carved wooden boxes and yellowed scrolls was seated in the middle. The symbols on the walls and the chest are identical. They opened the first chest with shaking hands. Spanish looms from the 16th or 17th centuries, enclosed in shiny gold coins. Although it was concrete evidence and an amazing discovery, it was also perplexing. It appeared that this treasure belonged to the time of treasure fleets and privateers, an entirely different tale. It seemed like an offering to appease a casual seeker and a diversion, because Dumas Contracting Limited representatives are at the far end of the room, searching for items outside the building. The coins were only a precursor, as evidenced by the looming of another, much larger sealed stone door. The true secret remained hidden. Bacon's knowledge was lost. A smaller second chamber was discovered after forcing open the enormous stone entrance. However, there wasn't much gold in this room. It was a library, a repository of secrets. Hundreds upon hundreds of carved boxes were stored on wooden shelves that ran the length of the walls. They are all remnants of a bygone era. This was no trove of treasure, a time capsule created to preserve a history that the world was compelled to forget. It was a carefully kept collection, with their flashlight beams focusing on one startling artifact after another. The squad advanced in startled stillness. A polished brass astrolabe, a navigational instrument so intricately designed that its precision wouldn't be seen again until the 18th century, was held by a man long thought to have concealed original Shakespearean manuscripts. Another box contained scrolls written in a complex cipher that experts would later link to Sir Francis Bacon, a pivotal figure in the 17th century scientific revolution. The artifact was truly out of place. Then came the revelation that defied every regulation. A lead-line casket held a Roman ceremonial sword, a gladius in near-perfect condition. Its marks matched those of a legion that was in service during the 1st century AD. If genuine, it would have destroyed the 1492 time frame and provided unquestionable evidence of pre-Columbian transatlantic interaction. Viking runstones were placed next to what appeared to be Egyptian artifacts in other crates. Beside odd metallic spheres that hung with a faint, inaudible energy were Templar crosses. The true gem was this. It's a cross. It's a cross. Is a roll that is square? Yes, exactly. It's also heavy. It was a collection that was kept secret by a group of people with extraordinary knowledge and reach. It linked disparate cultures, including Norse, Egyptian, Roman, and medieval European, and it hinted to a covert international network that existed even before the era of discovery. The most plausible candidates were the Knights Templar, who, following their expulsion in 1303, may have built this vault using their extensive fleet and resources to store their holy texts and artifacts as they awaited the day when the world would be prepared for the truth. This fact was worth more than all of the world's gold combined. Templar's most sacred secret, even though the discovery of the hidden library was revolutionary, a much more startling hypothesis that had been rumored for 700 years surfaced. As specialists started to examine the scrolls and the odd metallic items, there were rumors that the Knights Templar discovered something beneath the Temple of Solomon while they were in Jerusalem. Sacred relics, not just gold. The two most potent and sought-after artifacts in human history are the subjects of our discussion. The Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. People believe this to be a myth for ages. However, what if the evidence is F? Found in the artifacts in this vault? Consider it. Not only do the scrolls written in a Templar cipher discuss history, they speak of a chest that carries the voice of God, a vessel of light, and an item of great power. This is exactly in line with what the Bible says about the Grail in the Ark, the peculiar humming sphere that was discovered within one of the crates. It may now be a part of the Ark itself, according to certain hypotheses. The fabled mercy seat is a wellspring of unfathomable energy. All of a sudden, the money pit's intricate structure makes perfect sense. It wasn't constructed only to conceal something of value. It was intended to hold something extraordinarily potent and possibly extremely hazardous. There was more to the flood tunnels than merely a booby trap for criminals. They were a cooling system intended to maintain the stability of the Ark's enormous energy. The whole Oak Island enigma is reframed by this notion. With their wealth, the Templars did more than simply abandon Europe. They were on a holy mission to conceal these artifacts from the despicable popes and kings, who intended to use them as weapons to defend the planet against the power they had vowed to defend. They established a fortress underground on Oak Island, a secluded outpost. The gold coins discovered in the first chamber served as a cunning ruse to appease avaricious hunters and give them the impression that they were engaged in a straightforward treasure hunt. Mike's aha moment is what I'm waiting for. I'm awaiting his words there. You found what you were looking for. Can you see that? Do you notice the square corner? It isn't circular. It appears to rise and then protrude at an angle. Do you see that? However, the true secret was always more profound and concealed by layers of myth and engineering. The Liga brothers had discovered more than just a fragment of history. They might have discovered the origin of divine wrath and miracles, a force capable of changing our world. However, what would happen if the Templars discovered something that possessed divine power, but wasn't actually divine? A doorway to the stars, not money. At this point, the story shifts from being implausible to something completely else. Scientists recognized something horrifyingly familiar when they looked at the odd marks on the room walls and the odd artifacts. The geometric design served many purposes than merely decoration. The constellations shown on these star charts are not visible from Earth. That extremely sophisticated astrolabe does more than simply monitor our solar system. It charts routes to far-off galaxies. As a result, the most outrageous theory has been developed. There is no treasure trove on Oak Island. The location is alien. Mike, what will we see if there was a tunnel, a void, or anything else down there? We would merely see an open no-return situation. The video has been removed. Black water is all that exists. With a prohibited past in their hands, the Lena brothers thus came out of that vault as distinct men. When you think about it, it's humorous. Everyone has been deceived by this island for more than 200 years. We're discussing businessmen, explorers, and even Franklin D. Roosevelt, a future U.S. president who was a member of a syndicate that flourished in this area. When he was younger, every one of them failed. However, the line has arrived at the exact location thanks to the flawless alignment of maps from 1179 and 1347 with contemporary technology. So let's clarify this. Does this nearly flawless discovery feel right after centuries of dead ends? Or is there a more significant game going on? Perhaps the island was at last prepared to divulge its mysteries. Or perhaps this discovery was planned. What if the vault was supposed to be discovered at a certain moment rather than being hidden forever? The artifacts found their point to a hidden society where knowledge that was hazardous, or too sophisticated for its time, may have been protected by the Templars or their descendants. This finding goes beyond simply adding a footnote to our textbooks. It compels a total rewrite. What else do we not know if a medieval organization like the Templars could have arrived in North America centuries before 1492 and built such an extraordinarily intricate underground vault? Historians and scientists will be debating the chamber's contents for the next century because they weave together continents and historical periods. Once a fatal barrier, the curse now appears to be a cunning guard dog, keeping a secret safe until the appropriate people show up. However, this is not the end. Although Oak Island is full with tunnels, they discovered a vault. Why and by whom was this entire complex constructed? They have barely begun to uncover the entire story, but they have already discovered the treasure. This is the true Oak Island treasure that has been sought since 1795. But does this mark the beginning of a more significant and dangerous fact, or the end of the legend? For more, like, subscribe, and share your theories. Halting the Liga brothers as they were digging in Sand Swamp. After 10 years of relentless search, their spade eventually hit a man-made hatch that had been sealed since the island's unusual features were originally noticed by early settlers in the 1700s. As a result, We are looking at a structure that is only partially visible right now. We're looking around the neighborhood for anything out of the ordinary. Something that doesn't belong here is what we are seeing. The History Channel captured the conclusion of the longest-running treasure hunt in history, which started in 1795 with tales of pirate hordes and was fueled by years of fruitless expeditions. Hidden under earth and strata, this hatch points to a history that predates both Blackbird and Captain Kidd. Beyond that, links to ancient civilizations or maybe medieval Europe could rewrite what we already know, where the 10th points the way the secrets of Oak Island have stood the test of more than 2 centuries of diligent research since they were originally uncovered in 1795, when 3 teenagers found a curious pit. When you think about it, it's crazy. The first concerted attempt, made by the Enslow Company in 1803, which excavated 90 feet deep, was defeated by the island's infamous booby-trap flood tunnels. I see we have timber. It looks like a brand new shaft. It changes the story as a whole. It's possible that we are looking at a money pit. Since then, collapses and mishaps have resulted in 6 unfortunate fatalities, further cementing the island's dreadful curse. But today, that covert dam has collapsed. The Liga brothers are using modern technology to solve a mystery based on tales of Templar exiles from the 14th century. In addition, the treasure is no longer a myth. For you, this is a signal. Have you got a signal? Not bad, either. Indeed, a good indication. Everything only started to fall apart in the marsh, long thought to be a natural characteristic. At its northernmost point, however, Jeremy's 2020 conductivity survey made great strides in locating a huge metallic anomaly. Take this, the location precisely matched 19th century descriptions of the Jack Adams box, a supposed treasure trove of priceless antiquities. This was more than just random garbage. It was consistent with oral traditions of a secret fund that might have been associated with 17th century privateers or possibly earlier European travelers. This was the first tangible scientific proof that the old stories were true. The legendary money pit was initially excavated in 1804, and a sonar investigation down borehole L15 revealed a massive void 150 feet below the surface. At the same time, its angular, straight walls matched descriptions of a 19th century offset chamber, a supplementary vault designed to confuse and impede explorers. The technological expertise required to build such an edifice, perhaps hundreds of years ago. It's a clue. It's information. It provides rationale for tenacity, alertness, and hope. Suggests a level of complexity similar to that of medieval European cathedrals or antique hydraulic systems. Then, on Lot 10, ground-penetrating radar verified the wild theory of Fred Nolan, a researcher from the 1970s. Oak Island was once 2 separate islands joined by a massive man-made dam. This massive structure, which geologists believe may have been built as early as the 13th century, turned the swamp into an intentionally massive hiding place. A perfect storm of evidence was produced by the swamp, the metal box, and the hidden path. Pirates did not steal this. The epic scale of this endeavor suggested a historical event akin to the Templar Purge of 1307. Could it perhaps be related to the supposed dam that was shown on the 14th century map that Zena Halburn said was constructed by Knights Templar? A historical bombshell was dropped just as the physical evidence was becoming unquestionable. The situation was drastically changed when researcher Zena Halburn displayed the maps. The first, from 1179, reveals that Templar voyagers had knowledge of the new globe in the Middle Ages, some 300 years before Columbus. The second was a French map from 1347 that featured enigmatic symbols like anchor, entry, and entrée. This seemed to be a complete plan for a temple operation to safeguard their sacred items after they had fled persecution. A single bright spot that looked to be an entryway near Dave Blankenship's house. When these medieval images were placed on modern satellite photos, the combination of medieval cryptography with state-of-the-art technology gave them their objective. They had to dig. The moment had come to change history by breaching the vault at the Bright area on the 1347 chart. In French, that clearly refers to the marsh on the Nolan side of the island. The actual swamp, commonly referred to as the marsh, is likewise delineated. The team's shovels clanked loudly on me. Metal. This was no ordinary hit. The ancient map from millennia ago showed them exactly where they should be. They meticulously found a corroded old hatch, a site that matched vague historical accounts of covert entrances from excavators of the 19th century. As they looked at it, reality set in. This hatch could have been sealed since the 14th century, when the Knights Templar vanished from history. It provided answers to a puzzle that had baffled people since 1795. Their combined might was needed as the rusty hatch rose with a wailing scream of metal, unleashing a rush of cold, humid air that had been trapped for almost 600 years. Below them, a set of stone steps descended into utter darkness. Centuries of neglect were indicated by the moss-covered surfaces and corroded edges. They walked along a small corridor, spotlights piercing the darkness. The stone walls they now saw were etched with unfamiliar symbols, a strange mix of Templar crosses, alchemical symbols, and geometric patterns that had no connection to any known culture. The corridor opened into a spacious room with a high-arched ceiling that seemed to absorb the sound and light. In the center was a stone table with yellowed scrolls and dozens of exquisitely crafted wooden boxes. The chest and the markings on the walls are the same. With trembling hands, they unlocked the first chest. Spanish looms, encased in gleaming gold coins from the 16th or 17th century. It was an incredible discovery and hard evidence, but it was also confusing. This wealth seemed to have come from the era of privateers and treasure ships. A whole other story. It appeared to be a diversion and an offering to please a casual seeker, because representatives of Dumas Contracting Limited are looking for objects outside the building. At the far end of the room, the imminence of a considerably larger sealed stone door demonstrated that the coins were merely a forerunner. The real secret was kept a secret. Bacon had lost his wisdom. The massive stone entrance was forced open, revealing a tiny second room. But this room had very little gold. It was a library, a storehouse of secrets. The walls were lined with wooden shelves that held hundreds and hundreds of carved boxes. All of them are relics from a past time. This was not a treasure trove. It was a meticulously maintained collection, a time capsule designed to preserve a history that the world was forced to forget. The group moved on in stunned silence, as their flashlight beams focused on one shocking object after another. A man long believed to have hidden authentic Shakespearean writings had a polished brass astrolabe, a navigational device so finely crafted that its accuracy would not be seen again. Until the 18th century, scrolls in a complicated cipher that scholars would eventually associate with Sir Francis Bacon, a key player in the scientific revolution of the 17th century, were found in another box. The item was genuinely inappropriate. Then came the revelation that broke all the rules. A Roman ceremonial sword, a gladius in almost pristine condition, was placed in a lead-lined casket. It had signs similar to those of a legion operating in the 1st century AD. If authentic, it would have obliterated the chronology of 1492 and offered indisputable proof of transatlantic contact prior to the arrival of the colonizers. In other containers, Viking runstones were positioned beside what looked like Egyptian antiquities. Templar crosses stood beside strange metallic orbs that buzzed with a subtle, undetectable energy. This was the real jewel. It's a cross. It's a cross. Is a square-shaped roll. Indeed, precisely. It weighs a lot, too. A group of individuals with exceptional knowledge and influence kept the collection a secret. It connected various cultures, such as Norse, Egyptian, Roman, and medieval European, and it suggested a secret global network that before the Age of Discovery. The most likely candidates were the Knights Templar, who may have constructed this vault with their vast fleet and resources after being expelled in 1303, in order to hide their sacred writings and treasures while they awaited the day when the world would be ready for the truth. The value of this fact exceeded the total value of all the gold in the world. The most revered secret of Templar. As experts began to look at the scrolls and the strange metallic objects, a much more shocking theory that had been circulating for 700 years emerged. Despite the fact that the discovery of the hidden library was revolutionary, while in Jerusalem, the Knights Templar were said to have found something beneath the Temple of Solomon, not just gold, but holy relics. We annalize two of the most powerful and sought-after items in human history, the Holy Grail with the Ark of the Covenant. For a long time, many thought this was a myth. But what if the items in this vault contain the evidence? Think about it. The scrolls written in a Templar cipher include more than just history. They describe an object of enormous power, a vessel of light, and a chest that conveys the voice of God. The Bible's account of the Grail in the Ark is absolutely consistent with this. A strange humming sphere was found inside one of the packages. According to certain theories, it might now be a component of the Ark itself. Unimaginable energy can be found in the legendary Mercy Seat. The complex structure of the money pit suddenly makes perfect sense. It wasn't built just to hide something valuable. It was supposed to contain something incredibly powerful and potentially dangerous. The flood tunnels were more than just a booby trap for crooks. They were a cooling system designed to keep the Ark's massive energy stable. This idea reframes the entire Oak Island mystery. The Templars did more than just flee Europe with their treasure, keeping these artifacts hidden from the vile popes and kings who planned to use them as weapons. Was their sacred mission? They built a fortress underground on the remote outposts of Oak Island to protect the Earth from the force they had sworn to protect. The gold coins found in the first room were a clever ploy to placate greedy hunters and make it seem as though they were participating in a simple treasure hunt. I'm waiting for Mike's aha moment. There, I'm waiting for his remarks. You've discovered what you were seeking. Do you see that? Observe the square corner. It's not round. It seems to come in and then jut out at an angle. Can you see that? But the real secret was always deeper, hidden below layers of engineering and myth. More than a piece of history has been unearthed by the League of Brothers. They may have found the source of miracles and divine wrath, a force that has the power to transform our world. But what would happen if the Templars found something that was not truly divine, but had divine power? Not money, but a portal to the stars. This is the point at which the story becomes something other than implausible. The strange symbols on the chamber walls and the strange items made the scientists realize something dreadfully familiar. There were more uses for the geometric patterns than just adornment. From Earth, one cannot see the constellations depicted on these star charts. Our solar system is not the only thing that is monitored by that incredibly advanced astrolabe. It plots paths to distant galaxies. This has led to the development of the most absurd theory. Oak Island isn't a treasure trove. It's an alien place. If there was a tunnel, a void, or whatever down there, Mike, what would we see? All we would witness would be an open no-return scenario. The video is no longer available. There is only black water. Thus, the Lena brothers emerged from that vault as different individuals, holding a forbidden past. It's funny when you think about it. For over 100 years, this island has been misleading everyone. We're talking about entrepreneurs, adventurers, and even Franklin D. Roosevelt, the future president of the United States, who as a young man belonged to a syndicate that thrived in this region. They all failed, but the perfect synchronization of maps from 1179 and 1347 with modern technology allowed the Linus to reach the precise spot. Let's make this clear. After centuries of failures, does this almost perfect discovery feel right? Or is there a more important game in progress? Maybe the island was now ready to reveal its secrets. Or maybe this was a prearranged finding. What if the vault wasn't meant to remain concealed forever, but was instead meant to be found at a specific time? The objects discovered there suggest a secret society in which the Templars or their descendants may have safeguarded knowledge that was dangerous or too advanced for its time. This discovery is more than just a footnote to our textbooks. It demands a complete rewrite. If a medieval order like the Templars could have reached North America centuries before 1492 and constructed such a remarkably complex underground vault, what else do we not know? Because the chamber's contents connect continents and historical eras. Historians and scientists will be discussing them for the next century. Previously a lethal obstacle, the curse now seems to be a crafty guard dog, protecting a secret until the right people arrive. But it doesn't end here. They found a vault despite Oak Island's abundance of tunnels. This entire facility was built, but why and by whom? They have found the riches, but they have only just begun to unearth the full narrative. Since 1795, people have been searching for this real Oak Island treasure. However, does this signal the end of the tale, or the start of a more important and perilous fact? Or the start of a more important